how to achieve mobile marketing personalization. And we have the wonderful Shannon Cook, who is the Director of New Channel Activation from Movable. So please welcome Shannon to the stage.
Hi, everyone. How are we doing? That good? That's what I said. I had my other session right after lunch, and I think people were still having a little bit of the falafel sleepiness. I'm so happy to be here today. As Rich mentioned, my name is Shannon Cook. I'm the Director of New Channel Activation here at Movable Inc. I just surpassed my 7-year anniversary with Movable Inc. I started my tenure here on our client experience team, and for the last 3 years, I have managed our go-to-market strategy initiatives and rollout of the mobile channel, which is part of our studio product. My background is in client services across omni-channel, that's email, mobile, a little bit of print back in the day, as well as sales support and enablement. A little bit more about me, just to keep things fun and light. I know we're getting towards that afternoon slump. I've also been co-chair of our female identifying employee resource group, Movable Pink, very fitting for the suits that I like to pull out once a year. And I also am a registered yoga instructor as well. Of course, because I oversee mobile, I like to ask people as a fun fact question icebreaker what their most used mobile app is. And for me, it is Libby and Goodreads. So for those who are avid readers, you might have heard of Goodreads, more like a competitive with yourself social network about reading, as well as Libby, which connects with your local library to e-readers. Let's talk a little bit more about mobile. So I'm going to ask for a bit of audience participation today before we begin on learning about this path towards excellence. I would love to take the temperature of where we're at in the room, where we all feel we are on our mobile journey. So I'd like you to raise your hand if you are in category A and this is a safe space. You're not sending any mobile messaging at all. That's what I like to see. Okay, great. All right. Group B, raise your hand if you're sending something, but maybe it's not as personalized as you'd like to be. Promotional blast, yeah, okay. Listen, you're starting somewhere, right? So we'll talk a little bit about how you can get a bit more personalized today. Raise your hand if you have a level of personalization across maybe one messaging type, push or in-app or SMS. Maybe that personalization lives in a vacuum, yeah. And that's a good place to be, right? Because then we have somewhere to build off of. And lastly, raise your hand if you have fully achieved and mastered one-to-one personalization at scale across channels. Okay, good, because if someone raised their hand, then they'd have to come up on stage and present with me. So wherever you are in your journey, at least we're starting somewhere. So today I'm going to walk you through wherever you're at, things that you can do to get you to that next level. So like at any journey, let's go ahead and start at the beginning. Truthfully, figuring out where to start can really feel the most daunting. Where do we begin? How do we begin? But at this stage, really what we're trying to do is just get the ball rolling, right? Just test, just try. It's better to do something than nothing at all. And we want to establish some quick wins that we can bring to market fast and ones that are going to start to show that significant return that we're looking for. My advice would be to laser in on some sort of engagement focus goal. So maybe that's driving app downloads. Maybe that's increasing the traffic to your app after you get that audience of those who have started to download. And maybe after you start spiking those sessions, we're increasing the length of time that customers are spending in your app. Once you figure out that goal, then you want to start identify the messaging type within the mobile channel that's going to be best suited for this. If you want to drive app downloads, then I would of course suggest outside the app, right? You got to get the customer there first. Email and SMS is a very powerful way to do so. Once you get the customer downloaded, you really want to focus on that very short window of attribution where you are avoiding the customer undownloading, uninstalling, that's the word, uninstalling the app and keeping their attention on where that engagement is going to be. So push notifications is a very powerful strategy to get customers into the app. And then keeping them there with top-line engagement, that's all about smart in-app messaging. So one way to, of course, personalize is to use different types of data, but if we're just putting our foot on that footpath, we might not have a lot of data to go off of. Maybe we have data somewhere, but it's not fully connected to where we're executing our mobile messaging. So that's where contextual data can be really powerful to leverage that level of personalization without not needing to know too much, because Movable Ink is a tool that can help you with that level of personalization. So what is contextual data? It's things like location, the weather at the location, time of day, all of which we can capture directly from the engagement with Movable Ink content. And at this stage, we don't have to do a big integration project or burden our developers to help us out with that, because Movable Ink is a tool that can help get that data for you. So I'm going to show you a little bit, some best practices on how we can bring contextual data into your messaging when you're at that first stage. So I love the idea of using weather, and of course SMS. I actually was just on stage with Attentive talking about SMS. SMS is one way that you can do this, but a lot of these use cases are translatable across push, in-app, and SMS, and of course email, because that's where all of us are starting to try and learn what are these best practices to do. But I love the concept of using weather, especially for retail or travel brands, to surface products or surface offers that are going to be most relevant to that customer at their location with their weather. For example, this retailer was utilizing real-time weather forecast to promote warm winter items since the forecast was showing cold weather. But if I opened up this SMS or this mobile messaging type on a hot summer day, the SMS would show sunglasses, swimwear, shorts. And we can use this with IP geolocation, or when we start talking about consumer data, maybe you have that region or that code that you can pass over to us, and we can layer that onto. Mobile apps work so well. So we're moving out of SMS, and now we're inside the app messaging. They work so well because they lean into the instant, urgent gratification culture that our consumers have today. Layering in this level of time sensitivity, which is another way to use contextual data, supports how well urgency works across mobile messaging, especially if we're thinking about limited time offers, limited time sales. So using a countdown timer inside an in-app message not only brings the sale top of mind, but also helps with the conversion process. Customers that I've worked with within in-app messaging and time-sensitive content have seen upwards of 50% lift in conversions when using something like this. And while you might not think about this as personalization, it certainly is, because when you work with inside the app, all of Movable Ink content is real time. So no matter when I open this up, whether it's during the sale or after the sale, I'm going to receive a message that's going to be most relevant for me, depending on my context. And even in push notifications, we can use time-sensitive content to automate the build, saving you time in the production process, which I'm sure we would all want to focus on, especially in these new channels where we're trying to earn and show off how we're focusing in on this mobile messaging in this new space. Take a triggered or lifecycle message, a message that is sent out based on consumer behavior, not a specific time on the calendar. Based on how I interact with the app, I might get a welcome offer at a completely different day and time than another customer. So the context of that message needs to speak one-to-one to both of our scenarios. And how do we do that? With time-sensitive content. So using geo-targeting here allows me to get the right message, pushing me to a medium coffee, versus if I am opening this up a little bit later, receiving the push notification at night, maybe I'll get a cocktail offer instead. So now we know that we can do personalization without all of this data connection. But when we want to continue down this path, build off the work that we've already done, that's when we can start saying, okay, we've got some wins here. We know personalization works. We know mobile messaging is important. So let's start to connect things together. Customer data expands off of contextual data because now it's more personal to the unique customer themselves. We can start to show that we know who this person is, what they like, what they don't like, how they operate. So we want to use that to our advantage and leverage things like their name, their loyalty status, maybe their birthday, or more product-related behavior so that we can influence content decisions and really start to make this a one-to-one experience. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples on the next few slides on how we do that. Here's a nice in-app messaging example of how the first phase that I talked about with contextual and the next phase of consumer blend together. And the goal of this use case is to increase in-app shopping by pairing contextual location and consumer-driven purchase history together. You'll see here in this use case that we have that local map pushing that buy online, pick up in store message that is so important for retailers, especially as we move into the holiday season. But then we also are merging in consumer data like the last purchased store, or maybe the last product category that they browsed. Not only are we showing this favorite store, but we're also showing them what they can purchase at that favorite store to just give them one additional thing, or one less thing actually, to think about when they go ahead and purchase at their favorite store. Moving along here, talking a little bit more about loyalty, monthly summaries, roundups, year in review, like Michael just talked about if you were at his session previously. This is a really smart way to present data analysis to celebrate activity and celebrate loyalty. And retailers can show earned and redeemed points. Travel brands can show where you've gone before. And in this example, credit card companies, financial services brands can show top categories that you've spent in with associated rewards. Now, this is an example of an SMS, but I also want you to think about this as ways to utilize this data to get someone into the app, either to foster more of that engagement, but also maybe to start spending in additional categories, more of a cross-sell offer. And wherever this data lives, API, CRM, CDP, you got any more marketing acronyms for me? Wherever that data lives, we can go ahead and tap into it. Did you know, this is a crazy stat, the average mobile app loses 77% of its daily active users within the first 3 days of installation. So that's why keeping mobile engagement throughout this acquisition period is necessary, paramount to avoid churn. During this time, we want to educate the customer on benefits of the app, as well as to continue high-value actions. It's going to make the customer stickier. So this use case here is a fantastic way to keep the customer going, using the app more, right? Extending those sessions. The more time we spend in the app, the less likely we are to go ahead and uninstall the app if it's not useful for us. Each of your customers deserve a unique conversation between them and your brand, especially in the early stages of the customer. And one of the best ways to do that is to use push notifications, because you know that they can't hide from push notifications. I mean that in a good way, especially if you're using data. All right, so at this stage, we're starting to run down this path. We're comfortable using data. We've got it across push, in-app. We're connecting things together. But at this point, maybe we feel like our efforts are a bit independent from each other. So here we want to break down silos and start using behavioral data from channels that are outside of mobile. Maybe website, maybe looking at our emails, but then also thinking about behavior that's rich within the app in and of itself to influence the content that we're going to show. And in doing so, we can shift away from this transactional relationship that we have with the customers to really focus on lifetime and long-term loyalty. So we have contextual, we have consumer, and now we're bringing in behavioral data. And what that means is that we're taking stock of what the customer is actually doing with their brand. We know who we are, we know who they are, we know where they're at, and now we know what their relationship really looks like with your brand. So it's things like, what are they browsing on the site right now? What are they searching for within the app? What types of messaging are they engaging with today? What are they ignoring? That's a very powerful data point too. All of these are tremendous sources of information that we don't have to ignore. And of course, I say this, right? And you're all like, well, easier said than done, right? And that's what Movable Ink tries to do, to help you connect these things together through our Stories product, through our new SDK, through the umbrella of Universal Data Activation, which you'll hear about a little bit later in Brian Wade's product keynote. Excuse me. But also at this stage, we can start bringing in data from the business. Because if I am browsing a particular category, let's say trainers, right? And there's a very particular trainer that I'm looking at that's a hot product right now, then we can start bringing in product inventory status, view counts, live pricing, social proof. All of these things are going to help drive urgency, which already matches well with why mobile apps are so powerful, because every little bit of information that you need to know is already in your fingertips. So all of this can and should be used to take the experience to the next level. When I speak with brands, one of the first programs we discuss is their abandoned cart program. Who in email has an abandoned cart program? Right? Lots of us. In push, anyone? Yeah. And I would suspect it's a very powerful program for you, all for good reason. Mobile abandonment rates are high. with 85% of shoppers failing to make it to checkout. But what we've seen definitively through testing with our clients is that the standard generic text push of "you left this in your cart" does not go far enough. With Movable Ink, we can provide a rich and dynamic experience, not just calling out cart abandon, but visualizing that experience. We can not just pull in the product image like you see here, but also some of those important business details that I mentioned: price, sale price, marketing information, social proof, inventory, store data, right? Reminding customers what they could have had and making it super simple to check out. I click here, I'm led to my cart, and now I have that sweater that I was eyeing. How we get this data is ultimately up to you, but just know wherever that data lives, Movable Ink can grab it. If this data lives in your MSP, or maybe we grab it from our SDK, it gives you flexibility based on your tech stack today and your team's bandwidth. And speaking about how Movable Ink can capture this behavior and layer in some of that behavioral proof, specifically, I want to call out the social proof that we have added up here. We have seen a lot of success across email, across SMS, across push, when layering in this notion of FOMO, really, especially in situations where there's already some sort of buyer intent. Using this information through Stories, which is our website pixel, as well as our SDK, which just launched a few months ago, bringing in website and app behavior, not just specifically to the customer, but to all of the customers who are browsing across these different platforms that you have, allow us to drive that urgency and help make that conversion. But our SDK doesn't just stop there, right? We also are able to collect custom-defined events that go beyond products. So let's say we're not a retailer and we're not selling products, or we're not a travel brand that's selling seats on a flight. We're a streaming service that has KPIs to keep engagement through continued listening, more time spent in the app. With our SDK, through universal data activation at Movable Ink, we're able to call out where someone left off in a particular show, in a particular podcast episode, to encourage further watching. And if we tie it all the way back to what I said earlier, more listening, more streaming, more watching, more time spent into the app, more of a stickier customer. I'm really excited that Movable Ink now has this capability through our SDK, and if you have any questions about universal data activation as it pertains to our SDK, you come find me afterwards. I'm not very hard to miss. I have a few more examples just to show you to close this out today, because let's face it, email's not going away, right? And instead of thinking about these channels as two independent levers that you can pull, I want you to think about email and mobile as two powerhouses that combined as this fluid omni-channel strategy. Zero-party data is necessary, especially in the last couple of years as new iOS and other privacy regulations have been passed around mobile marketing. So because of it, it's sometimes difficult to collect, but that's why Movable Ink has really made progressive profiling, polling, and then utilizing that data later on part of our strategy that we talk about with brands. What I love about this is that we're starting off in an email, so asking someone in a welcome series, what's your style, or what are you looking to shop for? And then based on what they choose, sporty, bohemian, trendy, we're going to resurface something in a push notification based on what they voted on in the email. So now these two channels are speaking together rather than just living in two siloed profiles. Because at the end of the day, we as consumers, we're looking on email, we're also looking on our phones. We deserve to hear the same type of personalization and see the same type of personalization across those channels. The last example I'll leave you with is one more representation of our Stories and SDK through bringing in data that your customer is browsing on the app into an email campaign. So again, we're all on our phones. Maybe we're, sitting on the train, we're stuck, we're browsing our favorite brand. And then once we get to the office, we open up our email and we receive an email that has a banner with what we just browsed. The art of the possible here might sound a little too improbable, but again, because Movable Ink is this one cohesive cross-channel platform, we're able to connect all of your data together to ensure your channels are speaking in harmony with each other. I've covered a lot in the last 20 minutes, so let me sum it up by saying this. Just go ahead and get started. Wherever you are on this path, it's better than doing nothing, right? The journey of 1,000 miles starts with one single step. Whether you're crawling or you're flying, as long as you're getting this incredibly powerful channel that is certainly not going away anytime soon, as long as you're getting that level of engagement and attention into your customers' fingertips, where their eyes are, their phones, you're doing something right. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope to get to hear from you soon. If you scan the QR code here, you can connect with me on LinkedIn or find me on the floor, or you can scan and learn a little bit more about our enhanced mobile suite. Thanks so much.